Logic by Azmodan Kijur, a user of the Rational Skeptics Society forum. Logic is the brother of skepticism and rationality. It is the tool with which one might evaluate the world and determine if something makes sense. Logic is merely the method we have to determine if premises to an argument are valid and if the conclusion follows from those premises. It is an excellent tool and one that I value a great deal. But not everyone values it. In fact, more than enough view it as some sort of dodge or hustle, like those that use it are trying to fool others when they apply it. Not simply in cases with fallacies, but even from the proper use of logic. Others assail it for missing the human factor, translated as logic ignoring some piece of data or downplaying something they feel shouldn't be given more weight. Still, others misapply logic themselves, employing the gamut of fallacies that may occur. And yet others adhere to the pop representations of logic, those found on TV for the most part. I'd like to address these a little. Pop representations. What do I mean? Well, the most obvious would be that of Spock on Star Trek, a cold and emotionless alien. He employs logic in every situation and is constantly proven wrong when Kirk or McCoy employs a little illogical emotion, brute force instead. This rendition of logic has become embedded in the culture, that those that use logic, their brains, are cold, emotionless, and most often wrong. It is those that think with their hearts that make the world work, basically. Logic is useless when applied to life and the lesson to be learned. As well, logic cannot cope with emotion or any form of from-the-heart level of data. What complete and utter bullshit. This is a straw man of logic and is dead wrong. Logic utilizes and considers every angle to a situation. Emotion is but one of the many inputs into the premises to an argument that feeds a conclusion. Emotional logic is given weight in the system and considered with the rest of the data. It is not emotionless. As a rather personal example, when I was preparing my chartered accountant exam, my mother died. I was out of the province at the time in an important final course for the program. I had to choose whether to go home to the funeral or continue. The logic was not easy by any measure, but was logical. My emotion state was a key component to decision to complete my program. It would hurt, but even she would not have wanted me to leave at such a critical junction. Logic is not ignorant of emotion. Logic is also not a dodge. Every decision made can be expressed as a logical statement. The need to urinate, the desire for sex, the want for a new gadget or toy, each can be expressed logically and the conclusion can follow deductively, inductively, or abductively from the premises. If I want a new gadget, I gauge my desire, which enters the equation as an input, and does the cost, need, availability, difficulties in the use, and so forth. I follow the logic of the system and determine a conclusion that flows from these premises. Thus, I get a gadget, or defer, or deny, or whatever. Logic does not miss the human factor of the mysterious. It weighs them accordingly. And it considers experience, but again weighs them to the system. What does that mean? Well, consider for a moment that you have a person rush up to you and tell you that their ride-on mower has been talking to them, telling them that their pet dog is evil and needs to die. The person is absolutely sincere. They fully believe what they are telling you. Logic considers this to be a part of the premises in an argument as to whether you believe them. What people that complain about logic seem to forget is that their personal experience is, while entered into the system, weighted against facts already known regarding science, psychology, and probability. What they see as discounting by the user of logic is considered as usual. They cannot cope with the fact that their evidence is outweighed by other negative evidence. This is one of the reasons behind saying remarkable claims need remarkable evidence. To those that claim talking lawnmowers or talking to God, they have to realize that the evidence has to be weighted against what is more likely to be occurring in the circumstances. Unless that evidence becomes overwhelming and tips the weighting to its side, the logic string must consider the alternatives. Perhaps they are crazy. Might be a brain hiccup. Someone could be fucking with them and so forth. They are not called down, but they are not believed automatically either. The reasoning is simplistic. You cannot expect a person that uses logic to ignore all the data that conflicts with your story just so that they will believe you. This is why we need evidence. Logic demands that the equation be reweighted to consider that your desired conclusion is valid. And we need evidence for that. One cannot demand that those rules be tossed aside on a whim or because you genuinely believe or want it to be true. It doesn't matter. You must find a way to input evidence that outweighs the other premises. This is especially the case when your evidence defies known data. The lawnmower has no vocal system, no means of transmitting information to a person. Let's assume it has not been booby-trapped to fuck with that guy. And there's no function to assume that the machine is possessed, as none of the components to such a possession have been established as being real or even possible. To claim it speaks means to rewrite a great deal of science, if true. This needs evidence, of course. On the other side, Occam's razor sits. What is more likely to be the conclusion, especially when we consider that no evidence can be produced? Are they telling the physical truth? It's possible, but what is more likely? Talking lawnmower or brain dementia? Which is simpler? Some meet that challenge to their credibility with logic fallacies, incorrect applications of logic to a situation. Look them up on the internet and read about them. They are fascinating, and they are very obvious once you get to know them. People use them, conscious or unconscious, to prove their point, but these proofs are simply wrong. Fallacies don't make you wrong automatically, but they never make you right. If called on a fallacy, you need to repair the argument. If you cannot, the argument can be rejected without any negative to the individual doing the rejection. Arguments from authority, ignorance, or antiquity appeals to emotion, association fallacies, bare assertions, red herrings, strawmen, false dichotomies, and many more dot conversation. These are not proper logic, and when pointed out, people are well within their rights to dismiss an argument if it cannot be repaired. Logic is not an evil tool, and it is not to be taken lightly. Logic is the means with which an atheist rejects God, rationality being the string used to do so. It is extremely useful, and as I hopefully indicated above in my overly long tirade, it is not weak in the face of nonsense that some would try to accuse it of.